So, in episode 5 of the Rihdar, my players find themselves in a very bad situation. In front of them is Sothis the Everborn, a spirit Naga who is a 12th level spellcaster, and they're all level 1, 4 of which are at 1 HP, no spell slots, one of which is at 8 HP. Now, this is not looking very good. However, over the week, they had come up with a plan. For some reason, they tried to hide it from me. I don't know why they did. That is a bit of a flaw, I suppose. I suppose it is the mentality of Dungeon Master versus players, which I need to try and eradicate, but it is what it is. But the plan is they are going to use an ace. An ace is one of these cards that are cards. At the end of every week, my players are allowed to vote for one another, and whoever has the most votes gets to pick a card randomly. And whatever the number on that card is, they get that as a bonus. So for example, if you get a 5 of clubs, you suddenly have a +5 you can add to any roll. So one of the players has an ace. And so whenever Newt shoots his gun, his sharpshooter gun, they instantly use the ace card, making it a crit. Now, what this means is that initially before the battle even starts, Sothis the Everborn takes well over 20 damage. It doesn't make him bloodied, but it is a big wound to his head. Next, initiative starts, and we start off with the same player getting another nat 20, doing about, I think it was 29 damage. Now, instantly, in the matter of seconds, my big bad guy is looking very weak. And it's not good for me. So all my plans of how I was going to have Sothis test the players and mess with them and basically play around with them like they're rabbits instantly flew out the window. Because Sothis instantly was put in danger. He knew he shouldn't play around, and I knew he wouldn't play around, so he went in for the kill. Now, at the same time, Krokle, who was the frogman who originally helped try and guide them and help them, is leading this patrol of troops who is around them right now. All the frogmen are extremely terrified, and looks like they're about to run. Krokle, making eye contact with Stavros and Hawkins, determines that they're all going to stay here and fight because there is no chance to run away. So he gives this amazing speech that none of the players can understand because they don't speak Bullywug. And he rolls a nat 20, and it basically gets rid of all of the fear. However, by this time already, Fraud Killer ran away. Now, if you don't know who Fraud Killer is, he is the fraud that I've now named that, from the last session, who his first 3 shots were all nat 1s, shooting all of his friends in the back. So, him being a coward, he runs away. Now, for Sothis to turn off his initiative. He instantly starts off with a lightning bolt, evaporating 4 of the bullywuds, and instantly ruining all that morale regained by Krokle. So the bullywuds start running. The players now realize that these bullywuds are cowards. There's no chance, so they start to run as well, but it's too late. One of the giant constrictor snakes comes over the bridge and finds Kit. He leans down, and one fell swoop completely kills Kit, swallowing him whole. Hawkins runs up, trying to stop this, throws a vial of acid into his mouth, into the snake's mouth. It doesn't do enough. He realizes it's a lost cause. So he turns with everyone else, starts running. He asks Stavros, "You should run." Well, he tells him to. But Stavros says, "You can run if you want," as if he's going to stand his ground. So the players run, along with the frogs. It goes back to Sothis' turn. He swims to the water, avoiding the reach of any of the melees, and once again, lightning bolts, instantly encapsulating the 3 players running away and some other frogs. Kira, Newt, and Hawkins need to make a death save. Kira makes a nat 20. Normally that'd still only be half damage, but I deemed beforehand that it would be complete damage reduction because I assumed that they may use that card, that nat 20 card, to save one of the people. And I wanted to make it where if they use that, it would actually save someone's life. But instead they used it for damage. So, Kira passes, flying colors. The other 2, Newt and Hawkins, die on the spot, evaporated. Their bodies are still there, but almost unrecognizable. They're charred. Kira, not wanting to leave Hawkins behind, even though he's fully dead, picks up his body and starts running. Now Stavros sees how dangerous it is, and he starts running as well. At the same time, the only one to stay back is Krokle. He drops his bow, not even knowing the party very well, jumps into the mouth of this giant constrictor snake, and starts going down it as if he's trying to save Kit's life. He crawls through the acid in the snake's mouth, crawls through the snake to try and save Kit. But you can't see him. He's inside the snake. Everyone else is running. And, they're actually, the two alive still, Kira and Stavros, greatly surprised me. They have a lot more movement speed at level 1 than I would have ever imagined, due to me giving them boost and various other things. Silly me, hahaha. And they probably would have genuinely got away if not for Dimension Door. As Kira's running, holding Hawkins, a Dimension Door opens up in front of her, and falling out of it is a giant Naga, Sothis. He stands before her, flicking his tongue, the ring pierced through it, showing off. And then he kills her. At the same time, Mo5, who plays Kira, made a remark, actually after session, that he didn't imagine I would be so cruel to make him use Dimension Door. Now, I also said in response to that, I'm not being cruel. It's just the world. That is him. That is what he would do in that situation. He's not going to let you get away. That's one of the spells that Naga has. The only way to overcome that is if you were more informed. Maybe then you could have avoided it. But you couldn't because you had no idea. It's not me being cruel. It is him being cruel. He is the one who decided to do that in front of you, to ruin your hope. So Kira goes down. Seeing this, Stavros runs the other way. Except now the snake that has been distracted by the acid in his mouth has stayed on this bridge. Stavros needs to run past it. He attempts, but the snake manages to grapple him, holding him in place. At the same time, all hope is lost for him. As a Dimension Door opens on top of him, out falling from it is the body of Hawkins. On top of it, the body of Kira. And then slithering out is Sothis, who then very quickly finishes off Stavros. And my players think that they're probably dead, probably in trouble. It was a very quick fight. But it's not over yet. Before this, I did something with Kit himself. The night before, he had a dream about the same dream he's been having forever. He is born from a dream, and as such, he only has this one dream over and over and over, since he's from this place in my world called the Dreamlands. In this dream, every night, he does not remain lucid. He does not recognize he's in a dream. However, this one night, he does. Because behind him comes a voice, mocking this dream and offering to get rid of it. Behind him is a creature that I've deemed and introduces himself as the Dreamwalker. It turns out the Dreamwalker is also from the Dreamlands. Unlike Kit, who is born from one person's dream, the Dreamwalker is a weird acclamation of wishes, nightmares, dreams, and other thoughts. As such, he has this creepy smile, his skin's all black, he has this clothing of a jester that's completely grayed out, he has these sharp claws. He looks more monstrous than human. But he offers Kit to take his dream away and give him normal dreams. Kit, almost accepting this, quickly remembers that he's not sure what will happen if he stops having this dream. There must be a reason that he has this dream. Him and his old master used to talk that maybe his dream is an anchor to reality. If he loses that dream, maybe he'll stop existing. So he decides against letting the Dreamwalker take his dream. He decides to keep it, because it's a 50-50 shot that he may die. He learns a lot about the Dreamwalker and realizing the relation between him and there. And this was his first encounter with him. As payment, or as respect for not being weak enough to fall for his tricks to allow him to just take his dreams away, he offers him a coin. The Dreamwalker hands Kit a coin and says, if you ever change your mind or need to talk to me, flip this coin before bed and you can meet me. And he wakes up. In that moment, Kit, for the first time, had gained lucidity in his dreams, and he'd also met something that called himself his brother, another creature from the Dreamlands, a creature controlled, born from the dreams of others, and ordered around by the Guardian, who managed to very luckily escape due to the help of the Dreamer, the one who dreamed up Kit. And that is actually why he feels like he even owes Kit any favors at all, because the one who created Kit is the one who caused enough chaos, indirectly, to allow the Dreamwalker to escape his confines. But Kit wakes up, and they're now in the situation of where they've all died. However, I asked all my players doing a strange idea. I asked them all to leave the call. I said, can you all please leave the call after they rolled a 1d6? And I'll bring you all in individually. Now this was because Sothis had different plans. Sothis planned on all of them helping him. The only reason he killed them is because he didn't realize how weak they were. So, using his powers as a Naga, he brings them back from the dead. But however, they wake up in certain times. The first two to wake up 2 days later are both Stavros and Newt. They wake up and they start talking to basically Sothis. After they wake up, they spit up a tiny version of him. They realize they're alive. They realize they don't have any of their clothes. They realize Sothis is there. Sothis speaks to them and tells them that he needs their help. That there's another Naga called Life Devourer Anthros, who has basically taken his throne years ago. Now he claims, to be able to defeat Anthros himself. But the problem is Anthros has reign over a certain type of uniqueness. This uniqueness does not allow him or other Snates to actually fight or attack her. So he can do nothing. So whenever she came in and took his throne, all he could do is become her servant, her champion. However, he's very stubborn and spiteful. He refuses to leave these swamps. His goal is to take it back over himself. And so now that he has these humanoids, he's trying to give them this quest. He offers him this giant hoard of treasure and a favor if they can do so. They're allowed to go to town, get resources, get extra men, prepare, as long as they can either kill her or find a way for him to overcome her uniqueness. Now, the players don't really agree to this. Instead, they decide to wait till everyone else is awake. Now, in the meantime, I've created this certain situation where, due to the way that they are alive, their bodies are off in the corner with all their gear. So the players have to go to their bodies to more or less retrieve their gear. And whenever they do, they see the haunting gaze of their dead bodies, the hollowed eyes, the mouth open, the mangled body of how they were killed with their arms broken and twisted around, and their tongue sticking out their mouth. They all have to make me a wisdom save of 20, a pretty hard save, or else they pick up a negative feature called Dead Men Walking. None of them except one pass. So they all get this trait. This trait that whenever they reach critical health, aka 25% of their HP, they become afraid of death. They get visions and they become haunted by that corpse. They are worried that they will become that. So they decide to flee. This is a trait that makes them scared of dying, that makes them wish to run away, which it could be a blessing in disguise or perhaps a curse to them. It is possible for them to overcome it eventually, but at this moment, they have this subconscious problem, this innate fear of death that only really comes up whenever they get really close to death themselves. So they get that feat. Well, cursed feat, if you will. At the same time, Stavros realizes that the cursed armor he's been wearing is still on the body of his past self, and he decides not to take it. This greatly surprised me. I thought he would have instantly picked up his cursed armor and put it back on, but he decided in that moment to leave the cursed armor behind. The cursed armor, which is sentient, is too much of a risk. At the same time, Newt actually takes off his armor and gives it to Stavros. This was a moment of great teamwork and just a moment between the two of them and me, since no one else was in the call. I greatly enjoyed it, so I rewarded them. Now, the next thing they realize is that these slave collars put on them by Kronos the Shamed men actually transferred to their new bodies. These slave collars are not on their own bodies, but they are on their new bodies for some reason. It was the only thing they woke up with. The only thing they woke up with was this deep, magical, basically slave collar around their neck. So they learn that these slave collars are most definitely very unique, that they are special. They don't know why they stayed on them, but they did. So over the few days, they wait until the others wake up. Eventually, Newt, Kira would wake up, as well as Krokle. Krokle, the frog, was spared because Sothis claims that he is the most brave Frogolian he has ever met in his life. He's never met one who's not ran away, instead tries to do something. So he decided to save him as well. Eventually, 6 days later in total, which this is a very important statement, because right now, days are very important to my players. They're currently on a time quest for 2.5 weeks to get to Port Crevice and back with a tailor for Kronos the Shamed. So they are currently being timed on their mission. So losing this many days is very, very serious. But also, they learn that Sothis answered their communication device when called by Francis, their regional manager or the person in charge of them, and basically told them that he had murdered the entire party. So the party is in this weird position where they're trying to figure out if they can just escape because Twilight Redemption, Kronos' group, believes they're dead, or if they shouldn't escape because they still have these collars on, so they probably know that they're still alive. So they get into this argument about what they should do. But Hawkins then wakes up. Hawkins doesn't take very kindly to the fact that all this is going on, that they haven't informed them, that he woke up so late, that they allowed him to see his own dead body, because he gets the trait as well for seeing his own dead body, and he's freaking out. And he just seems shell-shocked almost. Mind you, I feel bad, but it was part of the price I just had to pay to pull this off. But Hawkins' character, since he rolled a 6, he was the last to be pulled into the call. So he had to wait about an hour before he got to experience this. Which, I'm sure there might be better ways to work around it, or I could have sped it up. But that is something I need to work on as a new Dungeon Master, I suppose. Anyway, now all the party is here, and they've learned all these things about everything. And they're now determining if they should or should not accept this quest. And it looks like they're in disagreement. Some say maybe we should try and get Kronos and Sothis to team up, while others think this is an awful idea, because throughout these 6 days, they've realized that Sothis, for the last 900 years, has been doing experiments on creatures, humanoids, people, without any regard. There, in one of the other caverns, he won't let them leave the main cave, but he lets them explore a little bit. And they'll find this giant altar with a ritual circle that is stained with blood. They find remains. They find skeletons chained up. They find a book of experiments. They find this huge pool that's surrounded by stones, and the entire pool is full of blood, flesh, and gore. And growing out from it are these weird red mushrooms that leak blood. And they find this room full of hundreds and hundreds and thousands of bones piled up, piles that go above their head. This is a cavern of death. So they realize that Sothis, the Everborn, is not a good creature. He has treated the players respectfully for the most part. He has also treated them hospitably. But they realize that he's not alright. And even at the same time, the players then turn the blame of this happening to them onto bad luck and Aldania Pedalfeet. Why did Aldania Pedalfeet not help us? Why did she not tell us about Sothis? And Sothis mocks them. He slithers around and mocks them and says, You sure wish to put the blame on everyone else, don't ya? Did you ever ask about the dangers of the swamps? How dare you enter these swamps when you're so weak? More or less, he was scolding them, telling them, why would you enter these swamps when you're so weak without knowing the proper information and the dangers of the marshes? Basically, he said, don't blame someone else whenever you're the reason you're in this situation. Yes, it might have been bad luck that they ran into Sothis, but there's also the fact that they did not do proper reconnaissance or research of what was going on. Their urgency was not there, and as such, they're now in this bad situation. So instead of learning the dangers of the swamps beforehand, they managed to learn the dangers of the swamps firsthand by dying one time to Sothis the Everborn. So he mocks them for that and for trying to put the blame off. Around the same time, though, Kira notices something strange. She notices a cobweb on her shoulder, and she looks up to follow it, and she sees climbing there this big, furry man who has a bunch of piercings and this monocle, and she quickly realizes this is the bugbear head of finances, Jasura, one of the bosses, head members of Twilight Redemption. And he looks down and winks at her, and she realizes that something's about to happen, that they're about to be saved. So she she indirectly made Sothis come over to her as her face contorts, realizing what's going on. And Sothis asked her what's going on. But at the same time, Sothis was currently in a game of chess with Kit, and he was being helped by Stavros. At the same time, Kit manages to put Sothis in check and calls it out to him, thinking he's in checkmate. Sothis turns to mock him, saying he couldn't possibly be in checkmate. As soon as he turns, Jasura drops from the ceiling, piercing with his short sword through the back neck area of Sothis, slamming his head to the ground. Instantly, it's initiative. As Sothis' body flails around, catching everything, ruining the game of chess, the cauldron, sending people flying. They have to make death saves. Now, it's time for the party to decide. Will they fight directly against Sothis, or will they just watch what happens? Eventually, it seems that they decide, yes, we're actually going to fight against Sothis here. let's fight against him. Let's team up with Jasura. However, not before Kit tries to cast hideous laughter on Jasura to get him to stop fighting him, which it doesn't work. So it makes Jasura for a moment believe that the party has betrayed Twilight Redemption, that they've betrayed their majesty, and that they need to be killed too. But at the same moment as he's saying that, he notices all the treasure in the corner, and as the head of finances, he is greatly interested in money, and he's been needing a lot of it because they're broke. So he instantly forgets about everything and literally stops fighting and goes to start collecting money. At the same time, the party is now fighting Sothis. However, Sothis is trying to retreat. He realizes how much danger he's in, as this is something I'm very glad about. My players used a bunch of their consumables. As he is about to Dimension Door, Stavros had already cast using a scroll the Silent spell. As Dimension Door is a verbal component, Sothis realizes he cannot Dimension Door out of here. He's trapped. So he tries to run down and escape. But when he rounds the corner, he realizes that there are two more. Standing there is Head Commander Bulk, as well as the wizard, who looks like a skeleton but is actually a human with invisible skin, Lovely Bones. And they quickly put an end to the life of Sothis. Sothis, who had put so much trouble and pain onto the players, dies in about 2 turns with these 3 powerhouses here and the players. Just like that, he's killed. Now, the players try and get some of the money, but Jasura refuses. He says, we're taking all this money, we need it. However, you can have any other items. So the players end up coming out with a staff and the ring that was in Sothis' tongue. So they end up getting a couple items, which they know are magical, which potentially means that they came out better on top. However, Jasura would collect all the money, and Lovely Bones would go and collect the research, and they'd be preparing to leave. While Balk sits there, basically scolding the party, telling them that their majesty has gave them an order. They should not be doing other things. They should be going straight to Port Crevice, getting it done and getting back. That Kronos has been willingly given them a few extra days to get this done, but they must return as fast as possible, and they should not be wasting any more time. That's what he says to them. And then he and the rest will leave. The party then, they travel through the cave to find their way out. With Krokel until they actually managed to save Krokel's life. Krokel was about to be executed by Bulk because Kronos Ashamed said show no mercy and kill anyone. However, he would manage to be convinced by the help of Hawkins and Newt that Krokel was an alright person, well, that he was an alright bullywug. So, doing that, Bulk spared his life, telling Hawkins that he is responsible for Krokel. If Krokel does anything wrong, he is to kill him, and he is to take all responsibility for not allowing Bulk to kill him in this moment. With that, they leave. The party now investigates through the cave. And there was a certain moment where, as a dungeon master, you put items somewhere, just being like, okay, the players are players, they're going to put things up. So there were these mushrooms near this blood pool, and almost none of them put any up. But thankfully, thank you, Hawkins, he actually put up 4 of them, which is great. There were some other things around, like skeletons, and it's always interesting when you have little details planned, but the players see something, but they just don't inquire more about it. They don't really look into it anymore. Because there were a few things they looked at, and they just didn't inquire about it anymore, and so they just totally missed that little detail. Like there, well, I don't want to spoil it, but there was a skeleton they saw, and they decided not to investigate it anymore. So they just totally missed that. They totally missed the secret about it. But anyway, they go on. Some of them are getting ready to leave, while Stavros, Hawkins, and Kit enter this room of bones. Stavros pretty easily, with an investigation check, finds a remembrance crystal, a common magical item that is often used in the Republic of Kradoy. It is a little crystal that you can record messages on, and there they find a message from a man named Lawrence Aubrey. Whenever they hear that he's in a lot of pain, supposedly he only has an arm and his head and his torso left. He's been tortured by Sothis, and he's barely alive. He's basically telling a recount of what he was here for, and he says the name Molly and that he regrets that he ever became an adventurer before he's eventually killed by Sothis and the recording stops. Now Stavros and Kit, they decide to try and break this. Now they couldn't break it the first time, so Kit helps Stavros, giving him advantage. Now at the same time, Hawkins is telling the two, I think maybe we should keep this. We should keep this item and maybe return it to someone who knows Lawrence Aubrey. But they really wanted to break it, so they were just totally ignoring him. So now Stavros, who has the best strength, now rolls with advantage. But once again, he rolls 2 more 9s, as if the dice were mocking them and telling them, no, do not break this. Keep this. He gives up and gives it to Hawkins. So the dice basically determined... the dice didn't necessarily save, but the dice kept alive a certain pathway of opportunities for the party later on, because it wasn't broken. Anyway, from this point on, they all go outside, and whenever they enter the outside world, for the first time in 6 days, they smell fresh air, and not this pungent smell of death, stacked upon death. Sothis, the Everborn, has been killed, and the party's outside. However, it's not all good and fun yet. Hawkins quickly starts berating the party, telling them that over these last few days, they've been absolutely dumb, they've been idiots, that they have just been not being prepared enough, they've been falling in all these traps, that they've been running into these situations that could be easily avoided if they were just more cautious. And some of the people seem to agree, some of them seem to try and push the blame off to others, and though in RP it makes a lot of sense, you can tell that a lot of the characters don't seem to realize how serious it is, which I don't know if that is because the players don't realize how serious it is, but it really scares me. At the same time, when they're having this conversation, Krokul is actually brought to tears by being outside in the world. He's brought to tears by them talking and trying to figure everything out, and he's just overwhelmed by everything. And that's basically where the session ends. There's one more thing that happens I didn't properly cover, but Kit actually decided to go back inside and try to get the cursed armor that Stavros left behind. However, when Kit went in there, he would find out that the armor was gone, as well as all the bodies. All 6 of the bodies were gone, as well as the armor. Just missing. So he would have missed that. So that is virtually where the session ended, with them getting ready to leave and follow Krokul back to the Fraudolians' camp, where their original mission was to finish it off for Aldania. Now, I asked them, because they made a joke about leveling up, and I asked them, do you think you deserve to level up, or do you think you were just damsels in distress? So I introduced a new rule where for them to level up, they need to earn it. They need to learn their level ups. And so they did not level up that session. They will level up probably next session, this Saturday, depending on how far they get. But there were a few points that were brought up that I thought were very interesting. Mo5 seemed to not enjoy it as much, because I think what's happening is they're getting sick and tired of being level 1, and they're sick and tired of basically, I've indirectly accidentally bullied them too much. I've accidentally brought too much pain upon them. I've tortured them too much, and they feel... I was trying to instill this idea of helplessness, of how dangerous the world is, but I've accidentally done it too far, where they feel so helpless, they feel like there's no opportunities, no chances, no anything. So I've indirectly forced my players, or some of them, into feeling like they're not having fun. So I need to be more careful about that. I feel like maybe they believe I've indirectly railroaded them, which there is a big difference in railroading and choices. I did not get rid of their player agency. I just limited their choices. They didn't have much choices, but they could still do whatever. But none of my players throughout that entire encounter ever really tried to do anything unique. Maybe because they feel like they didn't have the time to, but they never attempted to do anything too unique. There was one point where Kit tried to hide Hawkins' body before he woke up, which I should have allowed more, but I didn't go deep into it because I was so worried about making Hawkins wake up because Swills had not been playing for so long. So I was in a rush to get him into the game. So I do believe there was a bit of a situation there where I got rid of a little bit of player agency, which was an issue. For the most part, even though they feel like they're useless and hopeless, I hope they take a lesson from this, that they need to be more cautious, and that things will kill them, and things are not friendly, and things are very dangerous. Because once level 2 hits, I'm going to basically drop the training wheels and get very serious. But now they're off in the world to go back on their mission, and hopefully they can finish it next session and level up. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Fawnde. If you'd like to watch us live, you can watch us live every Saturday at noon, CST, on Twitch. The link will be in my description. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time.